September is an important month in MLS. The 9th annual Kick Childhood Cancer campaign is underway. Gold ribbon patches and commemorative match balls help to raise awareness and crucial funds for paediatric cancer. There were 13 fixtures across week 29 as the playoffs edged ever closer. And we begin our review with a look east at Red Bull Arena.
Oh, wow! What a goal! And what a lead for Philadelphia.
6-0 Union!
And it's 4-1 Philadelphia.
Playoffs clinched for the goal-crazy Union, who face the team they love to beat most.
Chips by Edelman, and it's in! And the Red Bulls take the lead. Lewis Morgan strikes again.
Oh, baby!
Phil Blacker is your commentator.
There's Morgan, Lakinias making ground through the middle. Lewis Morgan, Lakinias, Blake in the way. Importantly, first big save of note of the night. Lakinias just didn't quite have the space for the flick on the post. Helped on by Leon Flock. And then by Corey Burke, asking Uwet to chase it. Long wanted a free kick, he didn't get it. He has to hurry back here because Mikel Lewis still has it. He's away from Yearwood as well. And now Manreal to thump one goalwards. And not too far off target in his first start of the season. His first ever MLS goal came against the Red Bulls here in September of 2020. Gazdag released it quickly. McGlynn skips into space now. It opens up for Jack McGlynn. Looking for first Burke, and then Uwes ahead of him, and Mikel Uwes scores to force Philadelphia in front. It's taken less than 3 minutes of the second half. Finally, they found some room here against the Red Bulls. Brilliant ball from McGlynn. That's a first-time finish from Mikel Uwes. Timed his run beautifully. And got enough on the finish to force it past Coronel and in at the corner. Headed out as far as Kyle Duncan. He returns it, a touch on by Nealis. Big save on the line by Blake. And Omir Fernandez, who's just come on, couldn't quite turn it in. No wonder that Blake is taking the plaudits of his teammates, because he's kept his team on terms here. Wagner thumps it forward. Long again had to be careful and was beaten to it by Carranza. Mikel Uwes is in once more, he's unselfish. It's Bedoya. It's Carlos Coronel in the way with an important save. Looked for a moment as if that was set to be 2-0 to the Union. They will feel it should have been. Duncan's touch initially was a hesitant one. The Union have won it back again. Gazdag is in and scores again. He does not miss at the moment. And the Union racing clear, 2 to the good. As Daniel Gazdag's remarkable season continues. Goal number 18 of his MLS campaign. The Red Bulls took too long in possession at the back. It was taken off Nealis. Gazdag did the rest, as he's so adept at doing. They actually have a player down here, the Union. Now Carranza's gone down as well. A little bit of afters. The referee is getting his card out. And Drew Yearwood stepping into the stands. I think to apologise. Entirely unintentionally, but one of the spectators seemingly struck. Yearwood wanted to make sure she was okay. That's the challenge that sparked it all by Yearwood, and it was just his frustration as he took a swipe at the ball. And he has been sent off here for it. It ends on a sour note in stoppage time for the Red Bulls.
We want to win the Eastern Conference. That means home games at Subaru Park, where we've been unbeaten this year. So that's our real goal of ours. The Supporters Shield, we'll see what happens. Decision day is going to be wild. I think you can tell that already, and it's going to be down to the wire.
CF Montreal are the team in closest touch to Philadelphia in the East, and they travel to BMO Field looking to shake off a midweek home defeat by the Red Bulls. And the Canadian Classique quickly came to life, although referee Alan Chapman didn't immediately have a problem with Samuel Piet's challenge on Ayo Akinola. Wilfred Nancy might have feared the worst from a video review, and sure enough, Toronto had a penalty. For the 5th home game running, Federico Bernardeschi was on the score sheet. Of course, he's not the only Italian import who's making his mark for the Reds.
This played through to Lorenzo Insigne! An emphatic finish from Lorenzo Insigne!
So far so good for Toronto, but they conceded a late equaliser to the LA Galaxy on Wednesday, and Montreal's fight back started rather sooner. Kai Kamara's strike saved by Alex Bono, who was unlucky to find Kamal Miller lurking. And just 2 minutes later, the 4:01 derby was levelled up in spectacular fashion.
Mihailovic from distance! Oh my goodness!
Now Montreal had all the momentum, but they didn't always use it wisely. Victor Wanyama's miss was a different kind of spectacular. But it wasn't costly for long. Turnaround complete before half-time thanks to their 38-year-old striker.
And Kai Kamara into the box and scores! Montreal have turned this game on its head!
Before losing to the Red Bulls, the visitors had enjoyed an 8-game unbeaten run, which began when they beat Toronto in July. The rematch was heading for a repeat outcome when Romel Kyoto found Kamara, who found Alistair Johnson for 4-2 early in the second half. A major setback for Toronto, running out of time to mount a playoff challenge. This game was nearly over when Insigne delivered another example of his quality, but he can't win games on his own. And this consolation may have come at a cost. After their first defeat in 6 home games, TFC can ill afford an injury to their Italian superstar.
The last time New York City FC were at Gillette Stadium, they knocked New England out of the playoffs on penalties. So spin forward 9 months, this was a long-awaited chance for revenge. John Bell now with 2 MLS goals to his name, and both against NYCFC. Nick Cushing's team sat 4th in the East, but it masked worrying form. They'd lost 5 of their last 6 and found Revs goalkeeper Georgi Petrovic to be in supreme condition, whereas at the other end, New England were cashing in on every opportunity.
Now Buck tries a long-range shot again, this time finds the back of the net. The youngster gets his first professional goal for his hometown club.
And at just 17, this is only the start for Noel Buck. There could have been a similar tale to tell after the break had Andres Jason not been denied his first MLS goal by a flawless Petrovic. Cushing will know that it's no coincidence. His team's ruthlessness has been diminished by the loss of Tati Castellanos midway through the season, and you begin to wonder whether even the clubs outside of the playoffs might sense some unexpected vulnerability. The Revs certainly did.
Tommy Mack against his former team makes it 3-0. The Mack attack is back.
And a crack in the NYCFC pack.
When you score as rarely as the Chicago Fire, it's important to be solid defensively. Luckily, they have the 18-year-old for the job. Gaga Slanina denying Derek Etienne as the Fire kept their 19th first-half shutout of the season. After the break, more reasons why the teenager will join Premier League side Chelsea at the end of the MLS campaign. The save to keep out Lucas Zelarayan's shot was spectacular, although perhaps that's not the word Caleb Porter would use. The goals of Cucho Hernandez had carried the crew into the playoff picture, but even he couldn't find a way past Slanina, who did need a hand from Carlos Terán this time. 4 games without a goal now for Chicago, but at least Ezra Hendrickson didn't lose to his former club.
If Pat Noonan's Cincinnati could start turning 1 point into 3, they'd be playoff certainties. 9 of their last 11 have finished in draws, but the tide was turning against Charlotte.
It's time for a haircut! Nick Hagelin puts Cincinnati up 1-0!
The defender had promised not to go to the barbers until he'd scored his first goal of the season. But then, a close shave for the hosts. Alvaro Barrial managed to scamper across just in time to block Brant Bronico's passage to goal. Charlotte, though, should take a lot of heart at still being in contention to finish in the top 7 in their debut season in MLS. But ultimately, it was a moment of naivety that proved costly here.
Acosta shot! Acosta goal! 2-0 orange and blue, and they can feel it in the real Queen City!
After 4 straight defeats, DC's midweek win over NYCFC was decidedly welcome. A goal on his first start for new signing Christian Benteke would also go down well. It might have happened just 5 minutes in. A let-off for Colorado, whose last 2 outings had seen them concede 10 goals. They would need to take their chances when they came, but Diego Rubio couldn't beat David Ochoa just before half-time. After that, the Rapids' rearguard was stretched, and just past the hour they snapped. Keegan Rosenberry's stray hand gifted DC a penalty, as Benteke's obvious aerial threat took its toll. The same couldn't be said for his strike from 12 yards, repelled by William Yarbrough. A minute after that wasted opportunity, the striker got everything right. Well, almost. His powerful header couldn't evade Felipe Gutierrez on the line. After all those near misses, DC might have been fearing the sucker punch, but Colorado lacked the confidence to land a blow. Jazi Zardes couldn't make Benteke's night worse, but after a tough week at the hands of Philadelphia and Nashville, the clean sheet was a relief for the Rapids. Above the line in the West, the Timbers were eyeing a 3rd win in a row.
And Portland have doubled their advantage.
Atlanta had been toiling in the East,
And it's 4-1 Philadelphia.
but the playoffs were still within reach.
Back of the net. How about that?
Commentary from Stuart Robson and Chris Wise.
All chance for Araujo, skipping away, brilliant save Ivacic. Cisneros did not get hold of it at all, but Ivacic with a massive save initially.
Absolutely. They give the ball away here, and then the ball's just whipped into the space behind them, and he should really score.
Moreno has it for the Timbers, and Chara's quick, and he's got to the ball ahead of the goalkeeper. Moreno, Asprilla, Moreno, penalty. He was too quick for them in the end, Moreno. Those feet were fast moving. Atlanta couldn't keep pace with him. So Godinho on his Atlanta debut. Santiago Moreno in front of him, and beating him with a brilliant penalty. Doesn't matter if you're on your debut or indeed you've played many a time in MLS, you are just not stopping a penalty of that quality from Santiago Moreno. Asprilla, and still Asprilla, goalkeeper spilt it. Gutman's got there first though for Atlanta.
Excellent play from Asprilla. Pulls off the shoulder. First touch is a good one on his chest, then goes inside, and it just starts to dip a little bit on the goalkeeper. It was hit with power as well.
Luria, he just sends Portland a stretch in Atlanta now because they have to be a little braver themselves. Chara, oh, that's not the smartest challenge from Sousa, and it's another penalty. Moreno fouled in the first half, and Chara in the second. Asprilla, 2-0, and the Timbers perhaps cruising towards the 3 points that they need in their playoff push. And for Atlanta, the situation just becomes a bit more desperate. In the last 2.5 minutes, a goal would change the complexion. A corner is what Atlanta have. Mosquera trying to make things happen. It's only his 7th appearance to the club, Edwin Mosquera. Substitutes on the corner, in by Moreno. The header is a beauty. Joseph Martinez, a masterstroke perhaps, still showing that he is Atlanta's Messiah, and maybe they still have a sniff in this game. Lifted into the far post, Niskoda, and off the line. Purata with the clearance. Ayala's lost it. And Claudio Bravo has hacked it well wide. Terrific week for the Portland Timbers. 3 wins out of 3, and all of them by a 2-1 scoreline. It's finished the Portland Timbers 2, Atlanta United 1.
Overall, our team defense, I would say, did well, really well. Especially the first half, we only gave up 1 shot that was resolved well by our goalkeeper. It's a bad turnover, but I think we react well and defend that one well. Second half, I don't think they have much chances except for the set-piece goal. But on the run of play, I think we shut it down. A very dangerous team up front with players up front. I think our defense did really well, and we shut it down.
Western Conference leaders LAFC were contending with their first rough patch of the year after 3 successive defeats. A change of luck required perhaps, but it didn't happen immediately. Ryan Hollingshead's effort cleared by Aaron Herrera. RSL coach Pablo Mastroni might have feared the worst. His side had lost their last 5 editions of this fixture, and they cracked soon after half-time.
Hollingshead! Yes!
Certainly things look positive for LAFC, who'd won all 14 games this season when they'd scored first. They'd only managed a goal a game in their recent losing streak, but substitute Carlos Vela made an impact, rolling in Christian Arango for the second they needed against an RSL side who liked to strike late. No comeback this time though. Instead, the hosts had the chance to snap that bad run with even more room to spare. With a minute left, substitute Jason Mendes wasn't fouled by Zach McMath initially, but the RSL keeper did make contact at the second attempt. Penalty to LAFC. But Vela's ponderous approach helped the keeper make amends. No effect on the outcome. The leaders back on track. And another 7-match winning streak would be welcome.
Second place Austin beat LAFC last weekend, but then lost to Portland on Wednesday, a result which muffled any talk of a late burst for the Supporters' Shield. And after failing to force in an opener at Jodis Park in the first half, Nashville showed in the second why they could be a threat to the masses in the weeks ahead. Walker Zimmerman, graceful with his leap, thunderous in his finish, gave the boys in goals an invaluable lead. And what you certainly can't afford to do is give Hani Mukhtar even a sniff of goal.
Now there's a mistake, and this could set up Hani Mukhtar to make it 2-0. He's done it!
He'd scored a hat-trick in the week against Colorado, and it all played to the pre-match narrative. 2 potential MVPs strutting their stuff in Tennessee. Austin's Sebastian Driussi had started the evening ahead of Mukhtar in the Golden Boot standings, but by the end of it, it was the German who sat at the top of the charts. That was number 21 in Mukhtar's increasingly influential league campaign, and Nashville were going to win 4 MLS games in a row for the first time in their history. Austin have had very few unsatisfactory nights in 2022, but there was an unsavoury end to this one. Moussa Djite was cautioned for angrily throwing the ball down and then sent off for putting his hand on Shaq Moore's neck. It was also the first time in near on 4 months that Josh Wolf's team had failed to score in a game.
The 2 teams immediately ahead of Nashville at the start of week 29 met at Allianz Field. A quick turnaround for Minnesota, fresh from a midweek thumping at Real Salt Lake. And Manuel Reynoso missed the chance to get them moving again. Adrian Heath's side had won 3 in a row before that recent setback, but their defence is the leakiest of the top 5, and they were soon backpedaling in the second half. Paul Arriola's cross steered into his own net by Michael Boxall. Dallas's last outing was also against RSL, a 1-1 draw. When their goalscorer in that game struck again a minute after they'd taken the lead in this one, the Texans had some breathing space.
That will find the back of the net, Alan Velasco.
The Argentine's 6th of the season, and the visitors weren't done there. Velasco's next effort could hardly have gone closer. But the reprieve for Minnesota lasted a matter of seconds.
This one is headed home. The captain, Pereira, 3-0. Dallas in the 58th.
From goalless to game over in 3 minutes, and the home side's afternoon got even worse. They lost Reynoso to an ankle injury, and then a frustrated Franco Fragapane collected his 2nd yellow card. Dallas's biggest league away win for more than 5 years.
These two began the weekend outside of the playoffs, but the LA Galaxy's prospects have been in them when it matters appeared far healthier than SKC's. Chicharito scored the opener within 4 minutes for the hosts, just the start of an extraordinary day for him. But we'll park that story for now, as Sporting Kansas City's second half performance warrants attention. They were given a penalty after the hour mark when Derek Williams' high arm caught the referee's eye. The Galaxy's number 3 with an unintentional but also undeniable brush with the ball, and Johnny Russell squeezed in his spot kick. SKC had won 3 of their last 4, and it all started with a big win against the Galaxy last month. Suddenly, they were on course for another.
Hernandez cutting, shooting, scoring, back of the net. Wow!
Even in defeat, Chicharito scored 2 goals in that game at Children's Mercy Park in August, and one of them was a penalty. So when Kevin Cabral went tumbling in the final few minutes under John Polskamp's outstretched frame, the Mexican had a chance for another double. It was delivered with serious conviction to set up a fascinating conclusion in California. And the hype was justified. Deep into stoppage time, the game had a third penalty. Video review determined that the ball had struck Caden Pierre's hand. So cue the reliable, relentlessly accurate Chicharito for his hat-trick. Or not. Just imagine if the Galaxy end up missing out on a playoff place by a couple of points.
Staying in California, the Vancouver Whitecaps sat 1 place behind the Galaxy, but with no margin for error after last week's home hammering by Nashville. So Jeremy Ebobis's 15th goal of the season for San Jose in the 4th minute was far from ideal. And before half-time, Vancouver were staring down the barrel of a 6th straight road trip without a win.
Montero's drive! Goal! San Jose!
Vancouver's playoff prospects were fading fast, but the most porous defence in the West gave them a chance. Brian White really should have scored the 56th goal of the season against San Jose. JT Marcinkowski, a relieved spectator there, but otherwise he was the home side's hero. A save to keep out Julian Gressel's strike was one of 6 he made in the game as he edged towards his 3rd shutout of the campaign. A minute later he was beaten, only for the assistance flag to kill off the Whitecaps' hopes for this game and probably the season too. Tristan Blackman clearly offside, and Vancouver presumably wished they didn't know the way to San Jose. They've now won just once here in 15 visits.
To our final game at Lumen Field, and with Seattle feeling unprecedented pressure. The Sounders had just 1 point from their last 5 games and had never finished outside the top 7 before. And that's hard to believe that their vast array of talent could be 6 points adrift at the playoffs at this stage of a season. And Houston were about to make Seattle's situation particularly sticky. Submerged in that sea of orange was goalscorer Daniel Steres. And the Dynamo had also beaten LAFC in the week, but it all still felt too little too late, especially when the Sounders responded.
Still might fall in, but no! He scored! They've scored! Finally!
The wait for his first Seattle goal had rumbled on for 136 regular season matches, but it was the introduction of someone 10 years new senior that provided the crucial distinction. Fredy Montero's clever use of his body won his side a penalty, though Steve Clark anticipated where Nicolas Lodeiro was going to put it. But with the belief and the colour draining from the faces of those behind Rave Green, a rescue package.
With the cross, header, on target again!
More than 13 years on from his Sounders debut, Montero still has the magic when his team need it the most.
That win has moved Seattle up to 9th in the West, but they remain 6 points off Portland and the playoff spots. Minnesota dropped 2 places to 5th, with Dallas up to 3rd.
The one notable change in the East is New England's movement from 9th into 7th, swapping places with Miami, who were not in action. 5 points now separate 2nd and 3rd after Montreal's success in Toronto.
And it's with that Canadian classic comeback that we leave you.
Mihailovic from distance! Oh my goodness!
This copyrighted broadcast of Major League Soccer may not be retransmitted, reproduced, or rebroadcast without the express written consent of Major League Soccer.